Taylor Lasiter, owner of Redacted Fitness in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know you're in the Coeur d'Alene area,
Yeah.
Marine Corps
I mean,
veteran,
around there. Yeah.
around there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining me, man.
Yep.
Awesome how we got linked up through Instagram, a couple weeks ago or something like that. I think it was
hmm
Seth Horst and John Fontaine and, some of the North Idaho experience team there. I think that they had had something there was
Yep.
a little bit of crossover between you guys or something like that. So yeah, what was it, about a week ago? Jumped into chat and saw what
hmm
we got here, and lots to talk about as far as Marine Corps, veteran world, health and fitness, business, and all that stuff. So thanks again, man. Appreciate you being here.
Yeah. So, I grew up in Southern California out near 29 Palms Marine Base. My dad was in the Marine Corps way back when, and he's from Southeast Texas, and he got stationed out there at the communication school as an instructor. And I guess he loved it so much he decided to stay. So that's where I grew up. Um, which is kind of funny later on when I joined the Marine Corps because everybody felt bad for me. But anytime we went out there to train, I just pulled that like sympathy card and got to go home and see family and stuff like that. And they're like, "Oh, I feel so bad for you there." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's just the worst." But anyway, so I grew up out there. When I was like 5 years old, I wanted to join the military. I wanted to join the Marine Corps. My dad never really talked about it, but you're around Marines, living near it. Then, fourth grade, 9/11 kicked off. So I'm seeing all of the uptick in like military convoys going through, helicopters flying overhead. And it just, I, it triggered that thing in a young man that he wants to go fight in war or something. And, I went through school. I was in athletics my whole time. I played tennis the whole time. But I did, soccer, basketball, football, all this stuff.
Huh? I
And,
never pegged you for a tennis
what
player.
was kind of I know, right? Yeah. This big, like, Viking looking dude now.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, my mom played tennis and so I was constantly playing that. I was a smaller kid. My mom is half Japanese, and up until about 8th grade, I was taking after the Asian side, so I was very small. And but I was, tennis was one of the things that I just always played and I got really good at it. Up into high school, my dad was wanting me to be an officer if I was going to go in the military. He was an enlisted man. So, I was looking at the Naval Academy. I went to the summer seminar that they do at Annapolis. Had a number to go and everything, but I was in my senior year of high school and I said 4th grade was when 9/11 happened and this was 8 years later. I was like, the war's going to be over by the time I get through the Naval Academy. Like, I want to go do stuff. And so I decided to enlist instead, which my parents were super stoked about. And so 17, I enlisted, went to boot camp at San Diego, or the Marine Corps Recruit Depot in San Diego. Uh Eventually I actually went to be a radio operator. That was my MOS. So I was the same MOS that my dad was, which I didn't know that was going to happen. I actually, because it's communications electronics school or something, but I forgot what the like category you pick of what you want your job to be, and like aircraft maintenance and electronic anything was in that. So I was like, I'm gonna go like fix aircraft. Nope, radio operator, which means you can go anywhere. And I got stationed in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, with artillery battalion, 5th Battalion, 10th Marines. And when you're a boot, any unit you go to sucks. You're like, wow, this is the worst thing ever. But I look back on 5th Battalion, 10th Marines now, and it was probably one of the best units that I got to interact with. Everything was pretty smooth sailing over there. The staff NCOs were really that buffer between the officers' dumb calls and like what we had to do. And it was good. We were just constantly getting messed with because we were boots. But I got put with the liaison or what do they call them? Battery liaison. And they're basically where the forward observers and JTACs and all that go to. you're working with fire support with artillery and stuff, but then you also work with aircraft and you work with, infantry with mortars and stuff like that. And so I got to do that. And I got picked up to go with 3rd Battalion, 8th Marines, an infantry unit to deploy to Afghanistan in 2012. Um, what's interesting, because we kind of talked about like war stories and everybody's got one and stuff. It was a very boring deployment. If you're talking about Marine Corps infantry things to do in Afghanistan, it was pretty boring because it's 2012 by the time I got there. So it's already starting to be the drawdown of everything. We thought maybe it might get a little spicy because 3rd Battalion, 8th Marines was taking over 3 different battalions' areas of operation in southern Helmand. And we're like, we're going to be spread pretty thin. It's probably going to get crazy. And it really wasn't. But one of the big things that was happening during that time was the insider attacks. So our partner forces with the Afghan police or ANA or whatever, they were doing insider attacks. So my big war story is we had an insider attack that happened on the base that I was at. Now, I was a fire support guy. That's what I trained for to go over to deployment. But when we got there, we didn't have artillery in country. We just had HIMARS rockets. Um, a lot of the air support, their rules and regulations of when they could drop bombs and shoot and stuff like that was kind of sketchy. Rules of engagement were kind of dumb during that time. And so it was pretty boring. So what they had me doing, I was attached to a F-18 pilot. He was doing like his ground tour, and he had me at Fob Delhi in Garmsur district of Afghanistan. Basically, Lance Corporal, 19-year-old Lasiter, was in charge of the LZ on the fob that I was at. So anything that came in and out of the base via helicopter, they had to go through me. So about halfway through the deployment, we have a like corrupt police colonel that I didn't know this at the time. None of us knew at the time, but he was a corrupt police colonel that was kind of blacklisted from a lot of bases in Afghanistan. He was like known Taliban,
Mm.
um, sex trafficking, all of the weapons, drugs, everything. Like he was no good, but he was a police colonel. I think he was AUP, the Union Police, Afghan Union Police. So he comes on the base with all his entourage, and you've deployed, right? You've been to Afghanistan.
No, I've been to like
You weren't
Japan
deployed?
and
Okay.
no, I've been to this Southeast
Okay.
Asia and Japan.
Okay. So, I mean, I'm sure you heard this, but everybody, allied forces, gets like an ID card. We have like our CAT cards, but the other partner forces get little like ID cards. Half of this colonel's like entourage didn't have anything. And I'm like calling up like, hey, what do I do with this? Because like half these dudes they don't have IDs. Like, what am I doing with this? And they're like, well, he's here, so we just got to let him through. Just let him all right, whatever. So I let him in. I shake this dude's hand as he comes off because he's like a bigwig with, a police colonel for the Afghans is like a general.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how they are. They kind of give themselves their own pats on the back and stuff. But we, I think I want to say like a couple weeks or whatever goes by. And we had a police advisor team that works with the Afghans. So they kind of stagger the police advisor teams too. So like halfway through one unit's deployment is when they show up, and then another unit replaces them, and then they leave halfway through the next unit's deployment kind of thing. So we had guys on the police advisor team that were trying to leave to go home. And we had red air in Afghanistan. The weather was crap. So no like coalition force aircraft flies around during red air. And but civilian aircraft will still do it. If it's not too bad, they'll still risk it for the biscuit and they'll still go and do what they have to do. Now, like coalition forces aren't allowed to ride in civilian aircraft, but you could kind of like, hey, these guys got to go here and they got to be here by this time. You guys mind if they space A on your aircraft? And like sometimes it works. Like a lot of times it would work. Because civilian guys, they don't care. They're like, I'm going to the same place anyways. We got room. Throw them on. Well, I couldn't get this police advisor team on. Just no one would take them. And I'm like, okay. So I tell the guys, I'm like, you guys can't go home today. Like, you're supposed to be home in like 2 or 3 days or whatever. You're going to have to, it's going to get postponed a little bit. They're like, all right. So they go back to their hooches and then they go to the gym that night. This police colonel had, you know what a chai boy is?
Don't know what that is.
So there's a custom in the Middle Eastern world where it's like young boys are basically like sex slaves. I know this, I don't know what kind of podcast this is, but
Mm-hmm.
you know,
This is
we're
fine.
getting into
Yeah,
some
go for
gross
it.
stuff here. Yeah. It's a really disturbing thing that they do over there where they have young boy, and pretty much every boy goes through this from what I understand. Um, you could probably look it up online. It's really disgusting, but all of the big wigs with the Afghans had these like chai boy party things. Well, his police colonel had some chai boys in his entourage. Probably some of the reason why they didn't have IDs was because they were younger, like minors, basically. Which I'm looking at them and they do look young, but I don't really, I'm Lance Corporal. I'm bottom of the totem pole. Like, what am I going to do? They tell me to let them on. I let them on. So this police colonel orders one of his 14-year-old chai boys to take an AK and go to the gym and shoot up the gym. So this police advisor team that was supposed to be on their way back home gets shot up in the gym. And, I'm, kind of, it's a small base. So I'm kind of becoming friends with a lot of guys. The police advisor team, the staff NCOs and stuff are constantly going back and forth to Leatherneck or whatever. So I'm getting to know these guys for months and, this happens. And so we're having to deal with that thing. Uh, it, I don't, this is my first job being in the Marine Corps. Like, I didn't have any job in high school. My parents were like, do good in school. You play sports and stuff. You don't have to get a job. Just do good in school. And so my first job, 17 years old, is join the Marine Corps. 2 years later, I'm doing this in Afghanistan. So, this happens. 4 of the police advisor team get shot. One of them is killed in the gym. And the other 3, we load them up to be medevaced out. There's an Osprey that comes around later that night to pick up the guy that was shot, Lance Corporal Buckley. They go to pick him up, so I load him in the back of the Osprey, and I see 3 litters there covered in American flags, and I'm thinking that it's our guys, that they died. I didn't find out till later that there was a MARSOC team that also had an insider attack that happened that night. Osprey comes around to pick up Lance Corporal Buckley, and I go to load him up onto the Osprey, and there's 3 litters there with American flags draped over them. And I was thinking that it was our guys, like the other 3 dudes that we loaded up earlier, that it was them. There was actually a MARSOC team that night that had an insider attack as well, and that was who those guys were. So out of the 3 we loaded up on the medevac, one of them survived, and then 2 of them died. So we had 3 casualties out of that whole thing. Just out of nowhere. So it's a pretty, like, you get kind of complacent when like there's nothing really hot and heavy going on. You get kind of complacent. You're like, all right, I can, this is deployment. It's not bad. You eat, sleep, work out, whatever, do your job. And then this crap hits. What was crazy, and we kind of went over a little bit of like when you and I were talking the other day, just like weird stuff that veterans are having to come to grips with about the war that we kind of served in.
Yeah.
My first kind of like eye-opening about the geopolitical crap with all that started the day after this attack happened, because we had U.S. forces that were killed. Not only were they were killed by a 14-year-old little sex slave. But the investigation of it was Afghan investigators. NCIS, when they showed up, was just there to do cleanup. And it was just like, what the heck? And then, so like normally on a US base, when you have partner forces, they have their side of the base and then you have your side of the base. They have their chow halls and gyms and sleeping quarters and all that on their side, and then you have your side. The day after this attack happened, we had Afghan technicals on our side of the base guarding the Afghan investigators. So I had to to go to the bathroom, I had to cross through a line of like armored technicals loaded up with their 50 cals or Dishkas or whatever on top of their trucks to go piss and then go back the day after this attack happened. And so that was kind of like, what in the fuck is that? That is, what is going on here? It's just like kind of one of those things that kind of bugs you. And then, you go on with the rest of your deployment and all that stuff. I ended up going down south to the Conishan district to fob pain and kind of do the same thing there. Um, Down there was a little bit different because it was a lot of like aerial interdiction stuff. I wasn't doing it, but I was, aircraft that would come through, I would be communicating with them and things like that down in that area, seeing how that worked, which was kind of another weird thing. It was like, okay, we're working with like DEA doing like drug busts. And it was odd because it was like we're 2012, I think 2001 was when we started doing operations in Afghanistan. 12 years later, what is this? It's just kind of weird.
Mhm.
So anyway, I never really got retribution, or at least closure, at least in my mind, for what had happened. We weren't allowed to do anything. It just was an insider attack, and then you just kind of live with it and you go on with your life. That same year, Camp Bastion, Leatherneck, got a huge attack that happened, and they were saying it was because Prince Harry was there and they were trying to kidnap him or something. I don't know. It was a big attack that happened during that time. And so yeah, that was like my deployment. When I get out of the military, I start having like PTSD like symptoms from all this stuff. And in my head, I'm like, I didn't do anything in Afghanistan. Like this isn't like I'm just stuffing it down, everything that happened. I'm just like, no, like other dudes had way worse deployments. This is nothing. Like I didn't even get shot at, nothing. Like this is stupid. But they kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I had this thing that was kind of growing inside me from all of that happening and not being able to do my job and not being able to like kind of like go out and, smoke some dudes because they smoked some of our guys. Like none of that feeling of closure after this. And so I just had this thing brewing in me. And then I went to a unit that really sucked and the leadership was really bad. I mean, they literally lined us up in formation and told us they wanted us to hate our lives until the day we got out. Um, and I just had all of this hate growing inside me. I wanted to go do MARSOC and I wanted to go do all this stuff to try to find whatever the gunfight was that I could do. I wanted to go do that. And eventually I got to a point in my end of my first enlistment where it was like, I think subconsciously I knew that something was wrong. And so I had the opportunity, like you either re-enlist, go to ANS for MARSOC, or you get out. And I think like physically I was training for like 2 years to go do that. I think physically I would have been totally on board. Mentally, I think I probably would have been a liability later. And subconsciously, I think I knew that. So I chose to get out. And it kind of bugged me for a while that I did that. But as I'm in the civilian world trying to figure things out, eventually like realize you have all this stuff going on with you. You need to get this addressed. And so I immediately am like, I don't want to live like this. Like I'm in the civilian world now. I have to figure this out. Like there is no other option. We kind of talked about like, the suicide option. And I said early on, like, I don't care if I'm living in a box under the freeway. I am not going to kill myself. So I don't care how hard it gets. That's just not an option. It's not on the table for me. I'm going to figure this out. It just might take me, my whole life to figure it out. I don't know. I don't know how this PTSD thing works. So, and it's still like something that there's stuff that I deal with that I'm learning more to cope with it. I'm trying to, that hate that was in my heart, you got to get rid of that. You got to figure out how to sleep. There's just these things that you start doing to try to work on yourself. There's a lot of veterans now that are like super hippy dippy about a lot of stuff. And it's part of that. It's trying to figure out, not just your place in the world, but like, who are you as a person? And like, in order for me to be the best to help other people, I have to be the best version of myself. And so it's just been this like growing thing. Well, in this process, uh, I had to figure out how to make money. So I started reading up on business. Um, and that's kind of what eventually I mean, I could go on for a long time about, you know, how that process worked. And maybe we do that in another podcast episode, but, uh, that's what led me on the like starting my own business journey and like going to school for business and kind of figuring out that like school for business isn't really teaching you how to run a company. It's how to build a resume to work for somebody else, which isn't all bad. And I've done that too. But like we were saying, we kind of like go into this thing where like guys who want to make things more efficient or have better ideas or whatever, when you're not listened to at every job you go to, you're like, I can do this better than these guys. And there are challenges that you hit whenever you think that way, because like, you're like, okay, at the end of the day, I am running the show here. So I have to be thinking like 40 steps ahead. And it is incredibly stressful. It's incredibly lonely. Even with help, you feel alone because you have a vision for what things should be and like an idea of how to go there. So then you're also having to learn, how do I incorporate other people into this to take some of the load off and do that accurately? So, yeah, I mean, that's the brief rundown of how I got to the business part of it. But I mean, I'm not one to just like sit around and not do anything. So my life story has been one thing after the next. It's just like constantly moving forward, constantly trying to grow, and I think that's really has saved me from myself in some ways.
That sounds awesome,
Rant
man.
over.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. It sounds like a lot of different puzzle pieces fit in together over time, and like as your vision became clearer, like sounds like you built a purpose. You realize like, okay, I've got to figure something out here, and now it's come together, and here you are wearing your Redacted Fitness T-shirt. This is your current
Hmm.
result that you're working with. So um, yeah, just
Yeah, I mean, I can go into what Redacted Fitness is. So
hmm
it's it's super revolutionary. It's a private gym. Oh my gosh. No, it's actually kind of funny because like so I lived in California when I got out. Uh, Started dating a girl that lived in Las Vegas. Moved out there because it was a lot cheaper. Obviously, during that time, it's not so much now. But I moved out there, lived out there for like 7 years or so. Had started a business eventually out there that was basically like a middleman for small businesses. Like I was seeing like there's small businesses that are kind of in the old way of doing things, and then they have all this stuff that they should be doing now with business that they just didn't have time for, or they're older and so they don't understand technology and things like that. All of the extra stuff of running a business, because you can be an owner operator, but a lot of times people that are just stuck in being owner operator, they don't have the ability to scale the business and grow it or keep it alive over a long period of time. They might be able to survive for a long time, but it's just a constant life of stress, and you're not actually thriving as a business anymore. And so what I was seeing was there's all these extra things that businesses should be doing that they just don't have time for. Um, Business is complicated now. I mean, a lot of times you're up against big corporations, billions and billions of dollars, trillions of dollar businesses now, um, that are kind of like impeding. Like take Amazon, for instance. Like if you have a logistics company, it's hard to beat with Amazon. You have to like join them to survive. That's why you got all these third
hmm
party like delivery companies that I'm sure they all wanted to be they're Amazon. They wanted to be something like that, but they can't. And so then they join them and they start working for Amazon. So I was seeing all this stuff happen. And I was like, okay, well, let's try to connect the small business world together. And so I was kind of a middleman for them trying to do that. Well, I went to do that full time in December of 2019. And you all know what happened in 2020. They shut Vegas down completely. And so I was like, I'm working with small businesses. All of my business has been told that they're non-essential. No, I'm not one to listen to the government that much anymore. So I was like, I'll do whatever I want. Like, you want to fight me? Let's fight. Let's go. But all of the all of the customers I had did not have that attitude. So I was dead in the water. I was like, okay, back to square one. I'm gonna go live in Southeast Texas and work in the oil and chemical plants down there. I got a job as a rescue technician down there. And I didn't really like it, but I learned some stuff about just like that industry, the oil chemical industry and stuff, like how you piecing it together of like how business works and how the world works. You start to realize that there are certain industries where we talk about like the elite of the elite, like the top people that you don't even know about. It's all a game to control those industries. The ones where like if this industry stops, the entire world stops.
Mhm.
Water, oil, food, like, the big stuff. They have to control all of it. And that was one of them. That's why it will never shut down, because that's one of those industries where it can't shut down. Everybody's talking about oil prices right now. They're going crazy and all this stuff. It's like, yeah, they're going crazy, and maybe a lot of smaller businesses end up going under because they just can't afford to be around anymore, or like customers disappear because they don't have money to pay for your product, and the oil industry is controlling most of that. So yeah, it was okay to make some money, but what's funny is I still did that during like the COVID era. What I initially got tasked to do with this rescue company was to do temperature checks at the gate for all of the people going into the plant. I was making 28 bucks an hour, going boop, boop, boop on the foreheads of people going into, yeah, I was making 28 bucks an hour. It was the easiest job I've ever done in my life and the most money that I have ever made. Uh, and I wasn't even doing rescue stuff. Whatever, man, you gotta survive. But I hated the job. It was super dangerous. You learn a lot about the ins and outs of those industries. Like, they have, OSHA and safety protocols that they do, but it's at the end of the day, it's about making money. And a lot of the people that work in that industry let's just say how it is. Like, they would rather get their leg blown off and never have to work again than to just be safe.
Mhm.
And as a rescue tech, you're basically doing body recovery. You're not really rescuing anybody. And that's just like kind of one example of it, but it's pretty, I didn't feel like it was enough money for what it was that I was doing. Also, my girlfriend at the time, she's my wife now, she hated that I worked there. But it's such a necessary job, and there's people that like that's their whole livelihood, and that's just what they do. And it wasn't for me because I had bigger plans. I never wanted to do that as a career. It was just make ends meet. And so I'm this whole time I'm doing that, I'm still like stewing. Like, I still got business ideas. I still have things that I want to do with my life. And so in a roundabout way, I eventually make it up to Idaho, um, North Idaho, where it was like, hey, I want to put my roots down somewhere. I'm sick of moving. I want to like be somewhere and like actually grow something. And so I came out here. I still didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I started welding school, and I did about a semester and a half or whatever of that. Realized like I'm a decent welder, but I don't know if my body can do that as a career. I'm in my 30s now. I'm like, I don't know if that's something I want to do. Finding out that like a lot of that job, it really depends on where you're at, where you make the big bucks. And most of the guys that make the really big bucks welding are doing pipe welding, and that means they're gone from their families most of the year. And I just, the economy's doing a weird thing where there's not as much growth when it comes to real big stuff. There's a lot of track homes being built, but like welding jobs, it's the big money is in like structural, big structures and things like that. And it just kind of slowed down because steel got more expensive, blah, 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 blah. So I was like, okay, I could make some money doing like a mobile welding service, because I go around, North Idaho, and I look at a lot of these farms and stuff, and there's a lot of welding that needs to be done and no one's doing it. So maybe I start a welding company to do that. And I look at the startup costs for that. And then I got this idea in my head, like I've always been involved with fitness in some way. Um and I was like, well, it'd be nice to, going back to my Marine Corps days, being like, God, I would just love to just work out all day and just own my own gym and just, train people or something. Like, it would just be great. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, why don't I just start that? So I look at the startup cost for that versus the welding thing. It's about the same. And now, generally in the long run, welding, you probably make a lot more money. But my idea wasn't just to be like a personal trainer with my own gym. It was like, I want to solve something within the fitness industry that is beneficial for everybody. So not just me as a trainer, because you kind of have a cap on that. Like, you can't, one, you can't do that forever. And two, like, it no longer really becomes personal training anymore if you have too many clients. So you kind of like, that's the struggle with a lot of the trainers and stuff. So I'm like, okay, what if I start a gym that puts the independent trainers first, where, like, most of the time when you're a trainer, you're working for a gym and they kind of feed you the clients. You could bring other people in and they get a membership and then they can train with you, but it's not really like designed for the trainer. A lot of big gyms, they have big overhead, so it's all about volume. Just get as many members in as you possibly can, and then training's kind of a side piece. So I was like, we'll put trainers first, or the members first, and then off of that, then we can add other stuff. We can add, like, I added first responders, so fire, police, EMT. They're allowed to come here because I was talking to some guys in that world, and particularly cops, like, you have to work out at a gym that's in the public. You might be working out next to a dude you just arrested that doesn't like you and throws a dumbbell at your head or something. So I was like, okay, well, let's bring those guys on. They need a place that's private. And I kind of was hesitant about the veteran military side because, generally speaking, simply because what I've been through and my growth outside of it, if I was coddled by the veteran military community, I would not have as much, like, personal growth as I do, because you have to figure out how to do this thing with people that are not military, that don't understand that service.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was kind of hesitant, like, do I really open this up to military? I mean, it sounds kind of cliche or whatever. And it took me a while to do that. And I just just recently, I did open it up to them because I do think that you have to lead. Like, even though that they're capable, a lot of guys who are sitting on the couch that are, veterans or whatever, and they're, hating their life, or they're just ho-hum through life, they need leadership too. Because not everybody's a self-starter.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody can do this start a business thing. Sometimes you're a guy that just, you go to your job and you work your job and stuff. But the fitness side of things, like, is essential to literally everybody. And so I decided to open it up to military for that. Like, what I'm finding is that when you're not really doing stuff for a long time, you kind of turn into the nasty civilians that you always used to make fun of as a Marine, or, whatever. We're like, these fat body people are so lazy and gross. You kind of turn into that. If you don't push yourself, you turn into that guy. And so I'm talking to military guys that I'm like, hey, just come work out. Like, I won't even charge it. Let's just go get a lift it. Just, like, get your body moving. Let's do this thing. And yeah, I'll do it. And then they don't. And it's weird. It's kind of disheartening, but that's just one of the things that I'm working through. This is my first business that I've had where it wasn't, like, basically online or just through phone calls or something like that. It's actually a physical place with physical things that you can touch, that it's a little easier to sell that than it is to sell, like, a content creation thing or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, like I was doing before. It's easier to sell it that way, but now in the fitness industry, you're working against everybody's insecurities. You're working against their just general laziness. Their everybody's got an excuse in the book why they don't get healthy, you know? Oh, I tried it and it didn't work. You did it for a week, bro. You did it for a week. Um, so yeah, that's the struggle. That's where I'm at now. My goals, though, because it's still back to the root of the business, my goal is to solve the independent trainer side. where I'm not taking commissions off them. They're paying a flat rate. You're basically paying a low flat rate to rent the gym, and it's just your thing. You run your business how you are. I'm not telling you. It's my job to make sure that you have a good place to train your clients. You just bring them in, and that's the place for you. And then to grow it. And because it's a little bit smaller gym, I can scale it a little bit better. I'm not worried about the big overhead like big gyms do. Um, and then kind of grow it from there. That's kind of the idea but I'm in the baby steps of this. I've been open 2.5 months.
Hmm.
And so that's where I'm at right now with it. And we'll see what happens. I mean, the world is on fire.
Yeah. Yeah, hell yeah, man. You said something interesting there earlier, to the effect of you just saw this need, in the kind of gym and fitness world. And it's cool to hear from people who have those perspectives. It's like you're familiar enough with something, or you become familiar enough, and to have that skill to say, wait a second, like there's something missing here, and there's a need for it as well. So cheers to, recognizing that and stepping up and doing it. And that location too, knowing a handful of the folks that I do there, seems like you're in a good, obviously it's not a densely populated area, but it seems like per capita, veterans, police, first responders and stuff like that, you probably got at least a decent community of those folks around, huh?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that I've been running ads just kind of continuously with it. It's a weird thing. It's called Redacted Fitness because it's not just private, but I'm not like advertising. Like if you drove past it on the road, you wouldn't know it's a gym. Um, and the idea is kind of like it's for a place that are really serious about training. Fitness world in general has kind of become like, look at my ass, buy my protein powder.
Hmm.
And that's not for most people. That's not what it is. And we talked about a little bit like how people are, they're like trying to be famous really quick. This influencer thing, like anybody can be an influencer. Look how many views so and so has on TikTok. Like I could do that, and they're really just like, you're not really creating anything. You're not solving any problems doing that. Plus social media has kind of changed over the years. Like there isn't really much organic growth anymore. Like the people that get famous are kind of curated to get famous. But everybody's locked into this, like, everybody look at me, almost feeding this like narcissistic tendency that a lot of people have. And the fitness industry is just like, it's so full of people that are just looking for attention.
Hmm.
And what fitness is supposed to be improvement of yourself. And so like part of the reason why I'm going after first responders, and like military and stuff is because like these are kind of essential. This is an essential thing to your job. Like for military, it's like it's essential to your job. You have to be fit. Out
Yeah.
here, there isn't like an active duty. Well, I think there's an Air Force base nearby, but um, it's like reservists and things like that. Like I've seen reservists. A lot of them are not fit. Like now I know Pete Hegseth has kind of changed some things in the military with like how you can get away with and stuff now, but it's like we have to maintain the standard or there is no standard. And particularly with, I look at a lot of cops and I'm like, if I am not around to protect my wife and daughter, I have to rely on you to do that. And I mean, when I first moved up here, there was a cop here locally. I'm not going to say his name, but we were driving down the road and he's driving in his unit around the traffic circle with a box of donuts that he's like picking through of what donut to get as he's driving through the traffic circle. Like he would pull me over if I was on my phone, but this dude's rifling through a box of donuts I'm like, dude, this is like the biggest cliche ever. And he's a bigger guy. I'm like, you're the one that I would have to rely on to like, if I had a kid in school and there's a school shooter, like, are you going in or are you pulling a Uvalde? You know what I
Right.
mean? And,
Hmm.
so that's on that end, that's like what I'm trying to do is the people that really should be training, like, here's a place for you. It's not in the public eye. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars on like a home gym, because that's really the alternative. If you're not going to go to a public gym and have to deal with that, you have to spend thousands of dollars, you know, on a home gym. And most
Yeah.
cops in most places and firefighters and stuff, they don't make a lot of money to do that. So, the independent trainer side has been difficult because, kind of like we're talking about with veterans, you have to get them out of their comfort zone. A lot of trainers will talk about how much they don't like working for a big gym or a big corporate gym. And, they take commissions and I'm not really making that much money, but I do have a paycheck every 2 weeks. And they're kind of comfortable being uncomfortable. And the big appeal with being independent is that I don't have a boss anymore. It's up to me. But then you don't have a boss anymore. It's up to you.
Hmm.
And so that's what's been difficult, is trying to work through that, because I genuinely want to help the trainers that come in here. But it's like, you got to take some risk and you got to start thinking creatively. And like, it is about getting clients, as many clients as you can. There's a certain percentage of them that will fall off because that's just how human nature is. I've had people that have joined the gym that never even showed up. And it's like, that makes no sense to me. Why would you be paying for a gym membership if you're not even going to show up here?
Hmm.
Um, but that's just how it is. It's how people are. And that's why places like Planet Fitness or Crunch Fitness, they'll have, 4,000 members and 120 of them will show up regularly.
Right.
That's what
You know,
that's their whole business model. They'll charge, $20 a month, and they know that most people are not going to show up. They're just going to, it's just cheap enough to where people will never cancel that membership, because one day I'll go to the gym.
right. They forget about it. It's not enough money. It's a pain in the ass to cancel or whatever. And you mentioned something interesting
Hmm.
there too about, you see the sort of, I guess, essentially low hanging fruit, that some of these trainers have. Maybe you thought of this, but given your business experience, it seems like you could be not only providing that gym for them, but also a business building consultant for them as well. Sounds like I'm probably stepping on your toes here, but seems an interesting perspective, that you
No,
could.
it's something that I'm working through for
Uh
sure.
huh.
It's something I'm working through for sure, because it is difficult to, with the limited experience that I've had doing, content creation and advertisements and things like that over the years. Like, it is essential to a business, no matter how big or small you are. You have to do that. You have to have a budget for marketing yourself. And whether you go the route of, I mean, if you're an independent trainer, like, it's you training. So obviously, if you're going to do like an ad or something, it should be your face doing it.
Hmm.
But a lot of people aren't comfortable with doing that ad because they're like, oh, I don't talk good. It took me like 3 hours, the ads that I've been running. It took me like 3 hours to do it because I kept messing it up.
Hmm.
And that was after a full day of doing filming and stuff in the gym for like the promotional videos where it's just B-roll videos. I had to do the ads after that, and I'm just like exhausted and my brain's not working. I hate being on camera. I'd rather be behind it. And now I'm the guy talking. And then I run the ads, and now I'm seeing my face every 5 minutes as I'm scrolling through stories and stuff on Instagram. I'm like, oh, this is annoying for me. It's got to be annoying for everybody else. But you have to do it. Like,
Hmm.
that's part of being your own boss, is you have to do the stuff, whatever it takes. Um, that have you seen the marketing guy? He's kind of been everywhere. Hamosi, I think
Oh
that's how you
yeah,
say his name.
Alex Hormozy. Yeah,
He's like bearded and yeah, that guy.
yeah.
He was saying like, he was basically saying like, you should have no shame if you're like failing. Like, basically, if your business is not growing like it should, like, don't have shame in what you're doing. Like, you should be trying anything and everything, because it's about the success of the business. And it's such a basic concept that I'm trying to figure out, okay, I can tell these trainers, you got to do this, but like, is there something that I could offer to help with them? But if I'm doing that, I've been down the road of like basically making no money and trying to help businesses because they don't have money. How do I come at you and say, you are going to pay for this, but then also I have all these additional things that I'm going to tack on that you could also pay for that? But you're already struggling with the amount of money that I'm charging you now.
Hmm.
It's this balance. And this is part of the whole starting a business thing, that people don't think about these little details. It's like, it's not just pricing. Is the pricing good for you? It's like, how is it perceived? It's the 1995 versus $20.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like this,
Mhm.
it's like it's a trick. Like I know I would just hand you a $20 bill. Like that 5 cents I'm not even thinking about when I hand you my card. But it does a weird thing in everybody's minds, and it's the same thing when you're trying to price your products and services for other people. It's a hard balance to come with. Um, I'm kind of the business is not that it's changed, but it's not taking off as much as I would like or any would like. And so I'm like constantly in my head, like, okay, is it too expensive? Because I heard one guy say that it was too expensive, he didn't want to do it. And I'm like, no, it's not too expensive. This guy's just making an excuse or something. Like, you know what I mean? So it's just one of those things. You just got to work through it. But at the end of the day, like it's to solve a problem. Like you were talking about. It's like if I if I go out into the world and there's something I see as an issue, I look around like no one's dealing with this, but it affects me enough to where like somebody should be dealing with this. Well, now it's on you.
Mhm.
Go fix it. Go find it. Everybody's worried about finding their passion. I've been down the road of like being passionate about something and then turning it into a business, and now I hate that thing. Like I used to love content creation. I loved making videos, like flying my drone around, making these badass videos and stuff. I love doing that. As soon as I had to start selling it to people, to businesses and haggling over price and all that stuff, as soon as I had to do that, I freaking hated it. I no longer liked it because it was like I was trying to be passionate about something, and it's like it's different. There's a lot more stress involved with trying to figure out this business thing, and it's not for everybody. But I also love it, and that's just kind of that's what makes me a little different. I love the fact that if it does fail, it sucks, but at least it was on me and it wasn't on somebody else, and I'm not stuck here at this job day in and day out wishing that this person would, promote up or die or something so I could take his spot.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned Alex Hormozy too, because I've found a lot of value in some of the stuff that he said, specifically around what you're talking about. He's like, look, you've got to be willing to look like an idiot, humiliate yourself, do whatever you have to do. And I forget who said the quote originally, but he mentioned something about all of the people who are going to disparage you in the process. None of them matter because none of those people are doing anything to better their lives. They're not putting themselves at risk. They're not facing the fear and doing it anyway. Um, so this is the valuable stuff out there that it's like, none of us went into the Marine Corps thinking like, I'm never going to experience fear in this. It's like, of course you're going to experience fear in it,
Hmm.
but you do it anyway. So there's just such value, I think, in that for people. It's just like, and then it helps other people see too our humanity. So if we're always, whatever it is that we're doing in life, I think that other people who matter, can appreciate the fact to see, hey, look, this guy or gal is really putting themselves out there. They're doing this stuff despite, feeling stupid or being embarrassed or, whatever it is. And it's like, that's where the fucking growth is. Some of these people say too that, as far as like failures, and I don't like that word failure because it just seems like a final thing. You're always sort of on the course to learning more. It's like, okay, you take a turn here, I don't like where that went, cool, I'm going to make an adjustment here. So you're just constantly bouncing your way forward, hopefully generally in a forward direction. And it's a process. You learn about yourself, you learn more about people, you learn more about the world and all that. And it seems that you're familiar with that process as well.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing too is like, don't you don't want to like focus on, I don't know how to say this, like analysis paralysis, where like you're in the planning stage forever,
Yeah.
because like there's a certain point, particularly with this gym, like I had to go through probably 4 months of finding the funding to have the gym. And like I was at like this might be it. Like, we're not going to be able to find a lender to do this thing. Because one of the things about starting a business for like the first time, if you don't have any equity in a house or anything, you can't lend against anything. No one's just giving you money. And a lot of times they want to see that you have a business for a couple years, that you're making some money before they'll even put money into it. And I get it from a
Right.
lender perspective. Uh, but the part with the gym is like, if I don't have the equipment for the gym, there is no gym. I can't like just show 2 or 3 years of profit on a gym that doesn't exist.
Right.
And so a lot of times, like you end up having to do like a kind of like a lease agreement. Basically, you're like leasing the equipment. It's a loan, but you're like leasing the equipment. And that's essentially what you have to do. But not every lender knows how to do those things or are willing to do it. So you can have all your ducks in a row. You have the best business plan ever. You got, 5-year like estimates on what you should be making and bar graphs and pie charts and all this. You got everything all squared away. And they'll still be like, oh, you have a 720 credit score, not a 850 credit score. We're not going to lend to you. And you're just like, dude, what the fuck? Like, and that's what I dealt with. It was like, that was something I had to do. And I had to just throw your hands up and be like, well, if it's going to work, it's going to work. Like, if not, I'm in no different position now than I was before I started this endeavor. So you do everything you can to plan, and sometimes it doesn't work, but it's on you. I mean, you never know unless you try something. Like, when we're talking about veterans getting off the couch and stuff, like, you guys got to be the leaders in the community. Go out and find the problem in the community. Just stop bitching on Facebook about it.
Yes.
Everybody's doing that. All of the talk is done. They're now like weaponizing people's speech against them. And it's like, just go do the thing. Like, what are you afraid of? Getting arrested? What are you afraid of? Getting, canceled? What are you afraid of? Like, what is it? This is just, I don't know. Like, the world is as good as we make it. So go out and create things. Go do stuff. Find problems and fix them. Find other people that might be interested in helping you out and attack it together. One of the things that we kind of hit on it a little bit when you and I talked the other day, but I think personally that part of the reason why business world is what it is, where it's this like hyper competitive thing with people that are even in the same space, is this idea of business has been passed down from generation to generation, where you have this like dog eat dog, you're crushing your competition and you got to own everything or they're going to own it. And I don't know, kind of like the David Goggins situation where it's like, you gotta, if they're getting up at 5, you got to get up at 4, like that dumb stuff. There's plenty to go around. Like, people have a billion different reasons why they will do and not do something, but you got to find your little niche. You got to find the thing that you're good at addressing. So like, if you have experience in like 100 different things and you look at this problem that's kind of shown up and no one's doing anything about it, if you don't do it, are you afraid that like somebody else is going to take it over for you and then now they're competition for you? It's like, just do the thing. Like, this idea I have for the gym is not the first time someone's come up with this. My idea for it is to scale it bigger than I think anybody's tried to do before. But I also don't know if like there's a dirty little secret about the gym business that is why it's never taken off the way I think in my mind it'll take off. But it's not stopping me from trying. Like, maybe I have something that I'm bringing to the game that someone before that tried this didn't have. Maybe I'm a little tougher. Maybe I, came in at a different time. You never know what's going to happen, but get off the couch.
Yeah.
Start fixing the world. And it doesn't have to be politics. Dude, I don't even think voting matters anymore. Start fixing the world around you in your community. Stop worrying about what a politician's doing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. I got at varying times in my life, I got wrapped up, putting energy into politics, and it hit me a few months ago or whatever it was. It was just like, this is a fucking utter waste of time. nothing I say or do is going to have any influence in the political world, because the political world is there to keep itself in power. Um, yeah. So as you're getting to, it all starts
Mm-hmm.
here, and then bring whatever's in here out to the world, look for the problems to solve or whatever, focus on those. I like too that you mentioned earlier, maintaining the standard, that we learned in the military. um, that's an easy one, like you say, to fall away from. 1 week to 2 weeks to 3 weeks of getting lazy after you get out of the military, that starts to slope downward fast. I mean, that's just the nature of being a human being. Like, if you're building upward or if you're building
Mm-hmm.
downward, whatever trajectory you have, unless you change it, you're probably going to go faster and faster in that direction. um so yeah, fitness is obviously one of those things that's like, it gives you purpose. It's like, and then you get, now we're learning, with the benefit of the Andrew Humans and all these people in the podcasts out there, we're learning that, hey, look, probably one of the best antidepressants out there is to get off your ass and go move some weight around. Use your body, do something hard. When I was doing the cold plunge thing in Montana, people were like, wow, the rest of my day, because we were doing it in the morning with a group of people, like, the rest of my day seems like nothing's stressful anymore. And it's like, it's funny how your brain adapts so fast to, like, okay, cool, I have this stressor going on that requires a lot of me, therefore, in contrast, everything else is much easier. I think that's one of those things too that Joe Rogan has talked about, jujitsu guys being so calm because they leave it out there on the mat. They're
Mm-hmm.
100% of their focus and everything that they've got to pour themselves into. I think this is an important one too. That's kind of, it's coming out of me, and something that I've thought about in the last year or so, whatever, is like, when we pour ourselves fully into something, arguably the Marine Corps gives you that. These times where something's mentally and physically and emotionally demanding and you're sleep deprived and like all this stuff, nothing else in the world is going on. That's the only thing that you don't have time to be worried or upset about any other bullshit in the world. So I think that that's a big thing, that we need to find something for ourselves individually, as communities, all of that, to where it's like, I I just pour everything out, whatever it is, and it's not going to happen by picking up the bottle or drinking a fucking 12 pack or whatever. Like, you're only kicking the can down the road, and it's a heavier load to bear over time.
But I mean, particularly talking to the veteran community, like you're built for it, right?
Right.
Like, didn't you go through some like super hard shit to get here? Was it for nothing? Like, we talk about like veteran suicide and stuff like that, which what really sucks is like the numbers of active duty like military that are committing suicide is increasing. And that I think is poor leadership. I think that's what that is mostly. Um but the whole suicide thing, like if you talk to somebody who was in the middle of a firefight, like I could die like any second. Is any of them saying this is so hard that I wish I'd just kill myself right now?
No,
In
of
the
course
middle
not.
of the hardest thing you've ever gone through in your life, are you saying that? No, it's when you're sitting around having anxiety about stuff that hasn't even like happened yet. You're building it up in your head. Oh, it could always get worse. Yeah, it could get worse, but like it's not right now. How about go up, do some push-ups,
Yeah.
go for a run, like go do something, get a bike, go for bike rides, go get active, get your mind on something else. Go and start thinking, meditating on an idea that you've always had. Start writing a book, start doing something to contribute to the world because you're important. Your voice is important. Your actions do matter. People are watching you, even when you don't think they are. I was talking to a buddy recently that um he hasn't like said it, but I suspect he's probably going through some stuff where he's having like kind of suicidal thoughts maybe. And it's like I hate having this conversation with them for the fact that like I don't want to say the wrong thing and push them over the edge. Like I don't know exactly what to say to people whenever they're kind of like having these deep conversations about this stuff because it's just nerve-wracking to me because I'll hate myself forever if there was something that I did that made they perceived it wrong and I'm blaming myself for something negative happening. But I realize that you have to say it like it is. Like the real friends will tell you, you're messing this up. You're looking at this wrong. And you have to talk to them about it. Um, there's a trick that goes on in your head where you think that whenever things are going real bad, the best thing you can do is seclude yourself from society more. And really, it's the opposite of that. I think it's a trick. I don't know if you're very religious or anything. I think it's a trick that Satan does. I mean, we're created in the image of God. What is the like best thing that Satan could do to be a slap in the face to God? It's to get his own creation to kill itself,
Mm-hmm.
deface itself, like just destroy itself in some way. So if that's the case, like when you're talking about suicide, you got to think about what are the effects of this that is happening. Like in my head right now, this is how I'm feeling. It's like terrible. Um, but it's got to be kind of like jujitsu. Like there's always something that you can do. It might be a slight little movement, one way or the other. You know, turn your wrist like this instead of like this, and now you're good. Things like that. And then life is the same way. You got to like figure it out because say you have kids. You talk to anybody that's had kids where a parent or sibling or somebody in their life committed suicide. Have you seen how they're doing? Like that painful thing, it just transfers to other people.
Yeah.
Um, and if you're like a military guy, you've been through some hard stuff, even if you didn't go on deployment, like the lifestyle is hard. Maybe not in the Air Force, but you know, the lifestyle is generally hard. Like you're doing something that I love my airmen. My brother-in-law is an airman. I tease him all the time, but they're soft. Anyways, there's a there's a you know, you got to keep moving forward. I don't like the fact that even people put suicide on the table because like I would rather you go out and do some badass shit. I've seen quadriplegics go out and do like mud runs or what is that called? Tough Mudder.
Yeah.
There's guys that don't even have arms and legs that are going out and doing like what you would think is impossible. They're going out and doing some crazy stuff. It's like just because you might be a little broke right now or something, or you know, maybe you're fighting with your wife, or it's not it's not bad enough for you to kill yourself. Like you just got to go find that thing that fires you up again.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's
Yeah.
business, sometimes it's just, you know, get out of the house. Go pick some heavy shit up and put it down.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. I think too that depression is one of these things that we're told to believe that it's a condition in our head, like it's a disease or something like that. Therefore, people say, "Oh, I have this thing," instead of, "Hey, I have bullshit thoughts that have continued to snowball and convince me that I am in X terrible state." Whereas the people were just like, "Hey, look," and I realize it's tough. You literally have to become more conscious, to catch yourself while you're sitting on the couch, thinking of how terrible your life is while you're not doing anything to improve it. Um, and say, "Hey, you know what? I don't need to be sitting here ruminating on this thing that I'm unhappy about. Um, I've got more than enough experience in that, but I've become miserable enough having done that to myself in the past that it's like there has to be another fucking way. You know, there's got to be a way to train my mind into the right direction, and therefore, like they say, what is it? Mindset is the biggest thing. Like if you don't have the actual end goal of what you're going for, and I'm not going to go and preach about like goal setting because I think there's some kind of different stuff out there than people typically talk about that. But if we don't have, again, it's a purpose. If your thoughts don't feed your mission to achieve your purpose, um, then I think that's where a sense of meaninglessness comes up. And nobody who's been in the military wants to live with a sense of meaninglessness, because when they were in the military, to varying extents, of course, your meaning is serious, on a daily basis. It's real. If one guy or gal is no longer part of the mission, that can be a big thing. um, so anyway, I'm just, rambling at this point, but yeah, it's just people need to take so much more of an active role. And we were, talking about this a week ago. Need to take much more of an active role rather than just waiting around and thinking that, well, something has to happen for me. Well, nothing's going to happen on the outside unless you make it happen on the inside. And then the things that seem to be external to you, then those will start falling into place and say, oh shit, like, how the fuck did that happen? It's like, well, you started that into, you got that going in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, and the direction thing, like, where do I start? Do what I said. Find a problem in the world and try to solve it. Because eventually you'll run into walls or stuff you think are walls, and you're like, can I kick this wall down? Can I jump over the wall? Is there a side door that I didn't know that I have to look for, like this other thing? You might realize, okay, eventually this is a wall and I need a pivot. I when I first was starting this, a dirt poor and having trouble getting into the VA, my just getting into the VA. This was back in 2014, 2015. It was like a nightmare. It's a little better now with how they do things a little bit than it used to be. And I was going into the VA in Southern California, which there's a bajillion veterans, so they're just overloaded. But in my head, I'm like, I need to solve healthcare. Like, this is terrible. I need to solve healthcare. And that's actually, I'm not kidding you, that's actually what started my trying to figure out business, was that. Obviously, that's not where I am now. In an inadvertent way, I kind of am, because you realize healthcare is more sick care.
Yeah.
And taking care of your own body, you can control you. Maybe that can actually solve a lot of problems for you. So in a way that I'm kind of doing that. But that was a wall that I figured out, okay, I need to pivot because this is just a nightmare, trying to figure this out. But it led me to, okay, you need money to make money because you need money to fix healthcare. So how do I make money without a job? Well, I can try to get a job, but I don't have money. And so I'm having to determine, do I spend my money this week on food or money for gas to travel to a job interview that I may or may not get the job for? And that's where I was. But it's like, that's those little pivots, those little things that you just got to do, and you just keep breathing and you keep going forward, and you'll make it through life. And that's how it goes. But it starts with trying to find something to solve and then going for it.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I'm not trying to glorify it. It sucks. It takes forever. I'm doing this gym thing. It could implode at any time. I don't know, but like, look how far I've come. And I got plenty of guys that I know that are in the same place that they were when we got out of the military. I got guys, we talked about it a little bit, guys that are stayed in the military because they were afraid to get out. And they endured just all the BS the military has to offer just because they were too afraid to go be a civilian. And now they're coming up on retirement and they're having to figure it out now.
Uh-huh.
Mid-30s, 40s, whatever, and now they're retiring. They don't have a choice, and their whole identity has been in their job. And that's really what the big issue is when it comes to like making it out here, is like, what are you putting your identity in? I found you could put me literally anywhere and I will figure it out.
Uh-huh.
My identity is not in what I do anymore. It's in who I am. And the hard part is selling it, because everybody and their mother, every employer is trying to find the absolute perfect person to hire. They're wanting to find the person that has the best resume, that's super qualified. They have, 15 years experience, whatever, but they won't hire anybody. And so selling your capabilities is difficult. But that's also what drove me partially into the entrepreneurship world, because it was like, I'm tired of having to prove to everybody how worthy I am of whatever it is I'm trying to do. I'm just going to show you. But that comes with challenges because it's life. There's always something that's going to be hard and you just figure it out. And
Yeah. Yeah, that's
yeah,
life. Yeah, if it's never hard, then you never even find out who you are. There's no resistance. You're never picking up the weight to break down your muscle in order to build it up. I saw something a little while ago
right.
that said something exactly that what is it? Something like tearing muscle is what builds muscle. How are we supposed to believe that I forget what it was. I think it like related it to our spirit or something like that. That if we don't tear our spirit, whatever you want to call it, whatever, then how do you expect to build it up? Nobody graduates boot camp by sitting on their couch for 3 months. So anyway,
Hmm.
I hope that everybody
Yeah.
else out there, if people find themselves in a situation where they're feeling bad for themselves, but hearing what you're talking about, that they see this as a wake up call, that one step in the right direction is really it's really powerful, and then the second step in the right direction is a whole lot easier. You don't need to jump up and do a marathon or bench press 500 pounds whatever tomorrow. I think that that's part of what people do to themselves too, is they say, oh no, everything that I want is way too far out there, it's way too much of an undertaking. Like you say, go pick up some weights, take a walk, you know something. So I appreciate you sharing all
Hmm.
this.
Yeah. It's, I think internally I think about this stuff a lot because I've been through it. And then it's slowly getting to a point where it's just my everyday life. I have to remind myself, I'm talking to myself a lot too when I'm saying all this, just to remind myself, like, you're doing all right. Like, it's hard, but look at how far you've come. I mean, shit. I got out in 2014. Like, it's crazy to think how long ago that was. But, if I would have just gave up on myself in 2015, I wouldn't have my daughter, I wouldn't have got married, I wouldn't live in beautiful North Idaho, I wouldn't have all the friends I do. I've really, I mean, it sounds kind of ridiculous, but I do feel pretty fulfilled having my own gym. Like, it's something that I checked off the bucket list that I had over a decade ago that I said I wanted to do. I went in this crazy roundabout way of doing it, but like, it feels good. It feels good to like have accomplished something because it's like I feel like I've been kicked in the dick so many times over the years. And yeah, I got something now. So we'll see where it goes. Another day.
Mm, another day, absolutely, man. Well, Taylor,
Hmm.
I appreciate you doing this. I'm looking forward to having you on here again, because as we know, we went over a lot of different topics as we talked last week, and
Hmm.
this is a great conversation that I think a lot of people are itching for. There's purpose to this. There's meaning to these conversations. So I appreciate you being a another contributing guest.
Yeah, we'll talk about like aliens and Bigfoot and stuff in another one.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Well, right on. Yeah, as we
Yeah.
wrap it up here, after I stop recording, hang out for just a second, and then. But anyway, appreciate you
Okay.
being on. You got any other closing thoughts here?
I mean, if you are listening to this and you're in the North Idaho area and you're a independent trainer, or you're a client, you have a trainer that you want to come train at the gym, you're a first responder, fire, police, EMT, and some other weird ones. I haven't decided whether or not I want feds in the building yet. No, I'm kidding. Uh, ATF not allowed. Go
Yeah,
away.
right.
Uh, if you're military, active, reserve, veteran, like, there's a gym for you. It's a pretty badass gym. Hit me up on Instagram, redacted.fitness. Um, redactedfitness.com is the website. So either of those, you can hit me up. Get in contact with Craig if you can't, if none of those work. He'll link us up, whatever. But that's what I'm doing now. And yeah, and if anybody's like, stuck on the couch, feeling depressed or whatever, you need something to do, hit me up. Even if you're not around here, we'll talk it out.
Love it, dude. Thanks, Taylor.
Thanks,
We'll
Craig.
looking forward to having you back.